Let's continue our conversation on Stoicism, going over the Moral Letters by Seneca. I last letter I did was 44, and I want to skip 45 and 46 because I didn't find them particularly interesting or a bit repetitive, discussing things that we've discussed before. Letter 47, though, is a very interesting one because it deals with slavery, which is always an interesting topic when it comes to ancient philosophy, because even the enlightened philosopher King Marcus Aurelius didn't really take any steps to abolish slavery in ancient Rome, which is one of the things he's criticized for. I think that if he would have tried to abolish slavery, he would simply have been unable to do so, simply because that was something so deeply ingrained into Roman society. I don't think one person would have been able to end that. Having said that, it's obviously a deeply disturbing fact, as slavery is and was, and in some places continues to be, right? So this is a fairly long letter. I don't want to read the whole letter, but I will read you the start and I will read you the end, and then we can talk about it. Because it's quite fascinating. From Seneca to Lucilius, greetings. I am pleased to learn from those who have been with you that you live on familiar terms with your slaves. This is becoming in a person of your good sense and education. They are slaves. No, they are human beings. They are slaves. No, they are housemates. They are slaves. No, they are low-born friends. They are slaves. Fellow slaves, rather, if you keep in mind that fortune has its way with you just as much as with them. Okay, skipping quite a bit because it's like almost 3 pages. I skipped to section 17. He is a slave, but perhaps his mind is free. He is a slave. Is that going to hurt his chances? Show me who isn't. One person is a slave to lust, another to greed, a third to ambition, and all are slaves to hope, all are slaves to fear. I will give you an ex-consul who is a slave to a little old lady, a wealthy man who is a slave to a servant girl. I will show you young men of the best families who are the vassals of pantomime dancers. No servitude is more shameful than the kind we take on willingly. So why be afraid of those snobs? Show your slaves a cheerful demeanor, above them, and yet not haughty. Let them respect you rather than fear you. At this point, someone will say, I'm calling for emancipation and for knocking down masters from their exalted position, just because I said, let them respect you rather than fear you. What's this? He says. Should they respect you as clients, as morning callers? He who says this has forgotten that what suffices for a god cannot be insufficient for slave owners. One who is respected is also loved, and love and fear do not mix. Thus I think you are doing the right thing when you prefer not to be feared by your slaves, and when you correct them only with words. Whips are for training a speechless animal. Not everything that offends us is harmful to us. It is our indulgences that make us go into a frenzy, becoming enraged at anything that doesn't suit our whim. We put on airs as if we were kings. For kings, too, forget their own power and the weakness of others, and so become enraged, just as if they sustained some injury, from which experience they are quite safe, thanks to the magnitude of their fortunes. And they are well aware of that fact, and yet, in their pettishness, they grasp at any opportunity to hurt others. They consider themselves wronged, just so they can do a wrong themselves. I don't wish to keep you any longer, for you need no encouragement. One thing about good character is that it is content with itself and so persists over time. A bad one is fickle. It changes frequently, not for the better, but just for the sake of changing. Farewell. Okay, slavery is wrong. I think, and I would certainly hope, but I think we can all agree on that. So I don't think we have to debate that. What is interesting, of course, is when you say things like they are slaves, no, they are human beings, they are slaves, no, they are housemates. I particularly enjoyed this one. They are slaves, no, they are low-born friends. Okay, well, if you feel that way, why have slaves? But anyway, I'm not going to defend this because there is no defending. All I will say is I suppose that was, again, so deeply ingrained in Roman society that it was an unthinkable thing to not have slaves. But again, I don't think this requires any debate or any exegesis, really, because it's wrong. Like, slavery is wrong. Who could agree to slavery? Anyway, having said that, I do... So, I mean, that's my biggest issue, right? If you have this many issues with slavery, then set them free. But anyway, what I... excuse me. What I find a very interesting viewpoint that Seneca then continues with is, we're all slaves. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, in your household, people are more slave than you are. Having said that, as I said, that's wrong. Modern society, we say that's wrong. That's wrong. That was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. So that again, that doesn't require any further discussion. He then goes on with what I think is a very interesting observation, which is, but you know, we're all slaves, right? Show me who isn't. One person is a slave to lust, another to greed, a third to ambition. Oh, and this one's particularly good. And all are slaves to hope. All are slaves to fear. And I think that's very true. And this, I think a statement like that could be approached from a multitude of viewpoints. But I do think Seneca has a very important point. Everyone is a slave to something, whether that is simply ambition, wanting to have the best job possible, the most envied job, the job with the highest pay, the most status, the whatever that means. Other people are certainly slaves to lust, slaves to, what does he say? Oh, fear, yeah, hope and fear. Those are particularly good ones. I think we all have that. It's very hard to not hope for the best or for better things, good things to happen. That maybe the better of two options will be the one that happens to you. And the same thing with fear. We are slaves to fear. It's very difficult to never have a moment where you worry about something, where you are concerned about something that may or may not happen. Of course, from a from a Stoic viewpoint, there would be the idea of, but if you continuously fear things that may not even happen, then you are really making your life a lot harder than it may have to be. And I think that's true, right? That's true. And yet we are very prone to that. But what if this, and what if that, and what if this doesn't work, and what if that doesn't work out, and what if this does happen, what if that thing does not happen, what if he will say this, what if she will do that, like all these things. We're very prone to that. And as I've said before, I really think this is the downside of having evolved the brain that we have. It's very powerful. It allows us to consider all sorts of things and options and invent amazing things. But it also makes us second guess ourselves, make us worried about what others think about us, make us fear for the future. I don't know if you have a lot of animals in nature who are really, really concerned about the future. Right? But we do that all the time. And that is something that can enslave us. The feelings of, well, this may happen, that may happen, all these horrible things may happen, or they may not happen. They may happen, right? You also have to be realistic. Some of those things could actually happen. Right now, I could die. If this right now something could happen to me, and I could just drop dead, and you would wonder what happened to me. well, I'd be dead, so it wouldn't really concern me at that point. But to other people, that's the thing. It's a fear you could have. Something could happen right now. And that's why I think Stoicism is such a useful approach to try and mitigate those fears. Understand that some things are just not within your control, while other things are, right? The very important points. Anyway, that is something that I think enslaves many people. The fears and hopes. I hope that this and that will happen. Well, it may or it may not. But if it becomes an all-consuming feeling of, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe or I really hope that this will, I really hope this will go through. But once you have done those things within your control, it doesn't really do much to hope, does it? The hope is, I think, considered more positive than fear, but both don't actually change anything. Yeah, I can be very afraid that any moment now a nuclear bomb could land right here in the parking lot. You can't see it, but it's right there. I can really fear that. But that fear will not change a thing. And in the same way, I can hope that a nuclear bomb is not just going to hit right there in the parking lot, but that conversely will also not change anything. What I can accept or try to accept is that I simply can't control if that's going to happen. But if it does, well, then it will, and there's very little I can do about it, if not nothing I can do about it. So if you can choose to not be enslaved by those kinds of fears or hopes, things that are not within your control, and this is not my thinking, this is something Epictetus already lectured on. If you make your contentment, happiness, calmness contingent upon all kinds of things that may or may not happen, you won't have a life. You'll be in this continuous state of anxiety and fear and stress and things, because at any point this may happen, or I will only be happy if I get this promotion, because then I have this much money and I can buy this house and then this. And then what if you don't get that promotion? What if you're passed over? Well, then none of those steps are happening, and as a result, by definition, you're not happy. So this is a very hard one. It's hard to let go of those kind of things, because they're so deeply ingrained in us. All the sort of computing, that's what your brain does all the time, computing all the different little things that can go wrong, or maybe all the different things that could happen, right? But I think once you learn to more or less control that by taking a step back and saying, okay, wait a minute, is this something I should be afraid of? Is this something that's reasonable for me to hope for? Most of the time, hoping is pretty useless too. We consider this more positive than fear, because that's outstandingly negative. At the end of the day, it doesn't really do you much good, does it? Being a good person, like if it's hope, like let's just say hoping for a promotion at work. Again, I like these videos to be about everyday things. Okay, well, the hoping is not gonna do anything, is it? But being a good person, working hard, showing what you're made of, showing your qualities, interacting well with your colleagues, all those things may be helpful in advancing you and making you get that promotion, or not, right? But then at least you're doing something, and you're not just idly hoping for something that may or may not happen. But the hoping will not change it, just like the fearing that it will not happen will change anything. These are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, how you feel about this topic and us being slaves to all kinds of things. Let me know, because I always enjoy reading the comments in these videos. Thank you for watching. I will see you again next week. More talk about Stoicism. Bye.